Hello, my name is Randy Wostrowski, Director here at the Spectrum Group. Today we're going to talk about one of our most recently published research reports, Communicating with Advisors and Providers. Here's just a little bit of background on the methodology of the report. We fielded the survey over a couple of months in the spring of 2019. Just over 1,500 participants that qualified for the survey, having anywhere from $100,000 to $25 million in net worth, not including primary residence. Also had to be the main household decision maker or shared jointly in that decision-making process. Again, we're looking at everything that goes into the way that wealthy investors communicate with their advisors and providers, expectations for the return of correspondence, how they like to be communicated with, what they're looking for in the future, and at the end of the day, are they getting their expectations met from their financial services partners right now? Just a couple of slides that we want to go through today, starting with an advisor relationship slide. As you can see, we're looking at just over 50% of the survey respondents have a financial advisor. If you break this down by wealth, this is something we could do for you. You do see that as wealth increases, you see a commensurate rise in those that do have a financial advisor. But on average, those between 100K and 25 mil, 53% are working with a financial advisor. And there you can see on the right that a significant amount identify as self-directed. So when we talk about advisor dependency, this is referencing how they collaborate with financial advisors, and whether you're talking about completely advisor dependent, meaning that these wealthy investors 100% rely on a professional for making their investment decisions, or being self-directed, which is pretty much taking everything into their own hands and having a I can do it myself Home Depot type attitude. And this is a pretty significant number, and that represents a great opportunity. When you're looking at almost 50% of the respondents that say that they prefer to make decisions on their own without the assistance of an advisor, this allows those in the advisory community to really go out there and showcase how they can add value and what they can do from more than an investment standpoint to be of service to these wealthy investors. Now, in this particular slide, we're looking at the frequency and timeliness of when these wealthy investors meet with their advisor in person, and the current contact that they have and what they would actually prefer. And you can see kind of the biggest differences actually lie on the right-hand side of this, where you have a lot of these folks that currently are only meeting with their advisor as needed, and they don't prefer that as much. And then ironically, on the flip side, you have 8% of wealthy investors who currently never meet with their financial advisor, and 14% who would actually prefer to never meet with their financial advisor and take much more of a hands-off approach. Looking at the data here, we're talking about the actual effectiveness and how these wealthy investors perceive the meetings that they have with their financial advisor. And on the whole, when we're averaging it out at over 70, that's a very positive score. But when you break it down by age, obviously you see here both the millennials and Generation X with the 63 handle there, not as happy compared to their counterparts in the older generations, going all the way up to World War II, who are in the 80 age range. And so that's something where you have a lot of work to do if you're an advisor relative to working with and serving the younger generations. There's a lot to be desired relative to those in-person meetings. And so that's something where it would be positive to try and get some feedback from the clients that you're working with, especially those that are younger, about what you might do better, maybe what could change, maybe the content, the discussion, whatever the case may be. Maybe it's even the questions that you ask and how you can be more effective in those face-to-face meetings. It's so important because they are much more rare than an email or a phone call. So that's definitely something that you can work on with the younger generations. Here we're looking at investors and what they actually spend their time talking with an advisor during a meeting, and what they actually wish the advisor spent their time talking about during a meeting. And you can see that there are some significant discrepancies here, especially when it comes to reviewing the investment portfolio and discussing the overall goals in that portfolio. And that's on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, where you have just under a quarter of the time spent during the meeting is on that. And you have the time desired at almost half, at 42%. And then on the right-hand side, risk tolerance is something that really needs to be clarified a lot more during meetings. The whole concept of risk tolerance is something that clients really wish that their advisors did spend more time talking with them about. That's why it's so important that during meetings you're constantly asking questions about what is going on in the personal life of the clients that you're working with. And based on their responses to questions about their personal life and what might be going on with their job, with their family, with loved ones that maybe they have to take care of, maybe there was an expense that came up, that all has an impact on risk tolerance. Risk tolerance is not just setting it and forgetting it, saying that you're a conservative, semi-aggressive, or aggressive type investor. Risk tolerance fluctuates just like the market. And so that's something you constantly have to be monitoring and asking questions of your clients about. As far as communication, you have almost 60% of investors that have access to electronic newsletters from their advisor, which is a good thing. And so that's something that across the board in the financial services industry is very effective and impactful. And we know that our clients take a lot of time and effort in creating the content and the messaging that goes into those newsletters. Those are not being overlooked. Those are being read, and wealthy investors have access to them. Even hard copy newsletters at almost a third. Those are still important as well. There's folks that still like getting those in the mail and reading them. You see blogs at only 5%, but it's really an easy way to get a message out, especially to younger generations that do prefer reading things online and being more proactive with the types of information they seek out. And you have over 10% that say that they want to have and they want to watch and have access to videos. And so that's something too, where creating video content and creating education for your clients is an easy way for you to put together some messaging about whether it's what's going on in the market from the actual stock market exchanges to international to some of the political things that are going on. So videos are also something that it's important for you to have and have the ability to create. Here we're looking at a slide about advisor communication and how frequently these wealthy investors are in touch by telephone with their advisor or provider. And you have over 2/3 that say less than every month they communicate with their advisor or provider. And then you have over 25% that say on a monthly basis they're in contact by telephone with their advisor or provider. And then 3% each at never and daily. So this is something where it obviously talks about the importance and the digestion of using electronic communications and formats and texting and FaceTime for how advisors and providers communicate with wealthy investors, knowing that telephone is not becoming as frequent as some of the other mediums. Once again, this is Randy Ostrowski with the Spectrum Group. Thank you so much for watching.